Zara, welcome to our 10th 20-minute real estate briefing, live from Westerly, Rhode Island office of Randall Realtors. We invite you to spend a little time as we share our insights and experiences, tips and tactics acquired over quite a few years. Our goal, help you become a better buyer and a skilled seller.
Excuse me, I've always liked it when she does that intro seamlessly, like it was just done. One of the cornerstones of this whole thing, these briefings, the cornerstone really comes down to what are the questions on the minds of a typical buyer or seller of real estate. This week we happen to have a question from one of our local visitors or viewers, both actually. Jim asked a question.
Jim asked, does having a finished basement, such as an in-law living area, add value to your home? I know of many homes in the area with second kitchens in the basement.
Jim, the simple answer is yes, if properly done.
But before we go into more detail on that, please visit our past briefings on YouTube, the Coastal New England Real Estate Team Channel. Check it out. Please subscribe. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Coastal New. We do a weekly Where in South County Is This? On Instagram. Come on and join the fun. Do you know where the local landmarks are? Please share or tell your friends about us too. Please use the chat box if you have any questions or want to suggest further topics for us to discuss on our briefings. Our email is also in the comment section here.
Yeah. The 20-minute, we're back to the 20-minute real estate briefings. Clearly, there'll always be about real estate questions and issues in real estate. Some weeks the focus may be on the buyer, sometimes new first-time buyers. Other weeks the content is aimed specifically at the seller experience. And sometimes we have something that affects both buyers and sellers.
So back to this week's question, does a finished basement, such as an in-law living area, add value to your home? And will a second kitchen also?
And I got to answer the question the first time around, and I passed on what I was going to do, which say the answer is yes, as long as it was done properly. And I would have injected, if we had the capability, in asterisks. Denise was all kinds of, no, don't do the asterisks, Clark, they'll all be laughing. Asterisks. The asterisk has to do with what do you mean by properly? Because Jim is asking, jump in anywhere here, he's asking about the effects of an improvement on the house. The first thing we have to qualify about that is that an improvement is done according to your local ordinances, codes, all of that kind of thing. Because some people will just take it into their mind to build themselves a kitchen in the basement.
That happens.
That's not always a good thing.
No, it's not always a good thing. So in Jim's case, that he does have a proper, improved in-law apartment in the basement. So yes, Jim, that does add value to your house as a seller. You have your permits. You have everything in order. The quality of the improvements for a homeowner is important. Was it done by the homeowner? Sometimes homeowners think that they're craftsmen, but they're not quite. And
I blame Home Depot for that.
Home Depot is part of that problem. But if a permits were pulled, and then if the town or state came in to reevaluate the work, they would see if it was done properly. So I'm not saying homeowner improvements are a bad thing. But if a contractor did them in comparison to a homeowner that really doesn't know which side of the hammer to use, then that does affect the value.
And we were discussing this, Jim's question earlier, and I think I made some remark to the effect that a good question allows it to be viewed a couple of different ways, a couple of different levels of interpretation. And that's kind of a good springboard here for us because, as we said earlier, we're talking to buyers and sellers, and this is one of those times. The idea that improvements, the word says it's an improvement, so we're done with that. It's increased the value. Now, if you're a seller, that's what Denise, I think you were addressing.
Right, we're talking about from
If
the
you were a
seller's
listing
perspective
agent.
at this point. Right, if I was a listing agent, I would come into the house, and any good listing agent would do this. They would come into the house and look at your improvement, whether it's a finished basement, an in-law apartment, or just a kitchen in the basement that's been finished. Whether it could be a finished laundry room for that matter. But they're going to look at the quality. Even in your main part of your house. It doesn't have to be a basement. It could be a room over your garage, or it could be a room that you cut in half and made 2 rooms.
Yep.
The permitting process and the quality of the workmanship is what's going to make it have value.
Yes, it'll certainly have value, and then of course, when we start to stray into market value or value in the sense of, well, Jim might say, okay, guys, I get it. It improves my value. How much or how does it improve that value? Workmanship, quality of materials, things like that.
Right.
And that, of course, would pretty much be a function of the person who does it.
Right. And that would come, the value that increases would come depending on the market that you live in, and that's where your realtor can help you determine what that value would be. Does it increase your value? Yes. How much really depends on the timing of the sale, if it's this year or last year or next year, and also the quality of the improvements.
Now we're talking about market value, which is a topic that surely there's nothing more central to all of these things. The market value, every property has one, and it's your agent's job to determine what it is for a given property. That'll take 27 episodes ago, and that makes it 140 minutes.
No, we're not talking that
Okay.
long.
We're not talking that long. Denise has just informed us. However, the idea of your agent providing you with not just an objective view of what you're doing here in terms of improvements, but his or her experience is totally important, because
Right. And finally, for any seller, they have to be aware of the marketability of their improvements. What is the market in your area looking for? Is that something that is beneficial in your area? And what is there today may not be there. Like open concept used to be something that was very marketable.
Yep.
Now with people staying home or working from home, teaching from home, now we all want our separate little nooks. So having an in-law apartment in the house right now could be very desirable. A lot of people are living together with parents or adult children. Your kids came home from college, and we don't want them living in the same house as us, but we want them with us. So those now could be a very marketable item to have as an improvement.
Yeah. And when we look at that, and this is back, and you've heard us talk like this before, is your agent, now we're talking sellers, your agent is that objective view. Because, if you lived in a house with shag carpeting and orange countertops, nothing wrong with orange countertops, but the datedness is always lost on the owner.
Yes.
Because you
like
live
it.
with it. You like it. Yeah. So your agent is there.
So here's a good story about that. I currently have a house for sale.
Shag carpets?
And, no shag carpets. It does have leopard carpets. But anyway, but the bathrooms and the kitchen are very dated. It's a 20-year-old house, and they're dated. So, and most everyone who's come to see the house has commented about the dated house. Today, I had a much older couple come see the house, and they felt that there was quality in the house because of the workmanship that was done 20 years ago compared to workmanship today. And I'm told I may be getting an offer on it now. So that is a matter of perspective of what the market looks like to one person or another.
I'm totally getting a visual on them walking into the house and get the wavy lines and stuff, and like they're drifting back in time.
It was almost like that. There were things that were in that house that reminded them of their childhood.
Well,
Yeah, it was pretty neat, actually.
And the shrubs were small. That's the other thing that we see that a lot with houses. When people selling the house that they bought new, because the arborvitaes are all like this big.
Yeah.
When we get there, it's like over the roof. You don't see the house because of the shrubs, but they don't notice it.
No, they don't notice it, and they're touching and wagging on the house and scratching the siding, and you don't notice those things, you know.
So your agent, as the seller, will do that. Now, the role of a good agent for a buyer dealing with this topic of improvement is probably even more critical, because a seller can do certain things about the improvements, adjust the price. It becomes very important for a buyer to make sure that everything is done by the book.
Can I go back 1 second to the seller side of things? Sorry.
Okay.
So when you complete your disclosures, if you've put improvements into your home since you've owned it, those go into your disclosures. And in the disclosures, at least in Rhode Island, it does ask if you pull permits.
Yeah.
So that's another place where a buyer, going into where Clark's going now, looks at this to see if a permit was pulled to do the work, or if the right people have installed the work. So that's another thing that's very important. So back to buyers. Clark.
That's a nice setup. That's a nice setup to my story about having buyers in a house that, in this case, it didn't have disclosures because it was a bank-owned property, but we went into a finished basement, and it looked pretty good. Paneling, everything was kind of neat, drop ceiling, because you got to have those in the basement. Until we tried to open one of the closet doors, and the lolly column got in the way. I mean, it's a finished door, and you opened it like halfway, and you, as an experienced agent, would say, that's probably not an ideal design feature. So your agent will be looking at any house, not that we don't believe seller disclosures, but if we're working for you as a buyer, we won't rely entirely on seller disclosure.
Absolutely, we did. I mean, we've been through enough inspections that there are some things that are blatantly obvious that we'll bring to your attention. Doesn't mean you shouldn't buy the house.
No, but not even blatantly obvious. That's the experience factor.
Right.
Because if you...
But I mean, like a door not opening is kind of, when you go to open a door and it doesn't open, you kind of know there's something wrong.
Because a permanent feature is blocking it. Yes, that's...
Yeah. But there are things, like I always advise my buyers, always, look under the sink. See if there's any rot under the sink.
Well, didn't you have a house with a radiator behind the toilet? I thought you had one that they put in the radiator. They put the toilet in a different position, and it happened to be in front of a baseboard, the radiator.
I don't remember that.
I'll tell you when we're off the air.
Okay.
I don't want to mention names because somebody's might be watching.
I know, I don't remember.
Speaking of watching, do you guys have any questions before we go any further?
Yes, put something in the comment box.
There's a comment box there. You all are, if you're hearing the sound of my voice and you would be typing, you should be typing now.
So the other thing, Jim, that we would say if your buyers would be looking for would be what their needs and wants are. So again, back to marketability. If a buyer is in a position to need a finished basement.
Yeah. Or if they're like your buyers today, very old, they might be in the market for a rumpus room.
Right. Because nobody uses the word rumpus.
I've been wanting to
use that
term
to say rumpus
the whole afternoon.
Yes.
And she had that look in her eyes. Oh, don't do that. Don't do that.
But now that my story about older people, he was able to do it.
Can't blame me, right?
So, yes, the marketability of it, what the buyer's needs and wants. It's kind of like if you look at a swimming pool. Some people think the swimming pool has wonderful value. I can't wait. I always wanted a swimming pool. And other people go, oh, the work, the liability, and all that stuff. So even though something may be beautiful and done right, from a marketability standpoint, it could change who your buyers are.
And that works both ways, because as a buyer, you look at it in that light. As a seller, you should be aware of it. Because again, that's back to the factor of just because you love the house and its features doesn't always mean that everybody on the planet coming to see your house will love and want to pay the extra for features.
Well,
like
the
that.
perfect example is paint. I mean, there was a time where everybody did wallpaper. Then that went, nobody liked wallpaper. If you go into a house with wallpaper, people are like, oh my gosh, when was the last time they did these walls? Well, guess what? Wallpaper's coming back, and people are starting to like it.
In that house with the orange countertops, they loved their paneling.
Mm-hmm.
Paneling was very good because that gave you a place to put the intercom. And if you were high-end enough, that could play music.
Right. Or you could put nails in it and didn't show as much because there were already nails in it.
That's right.
But people do paint paneling and people do change countertops. It doesn't mean it's not going to sell. It doesn't mean that the value is that much less. But the high-end items, kitchens, bathrooms, those kind of things, those are the things that you actually get more return for your dollar. I mean, back in the day, people were painting their walls black, navy blue, and, people would come in and say, oh, it's so dark in here. And everybody went to lights and pastels and sea colors, and that tends to come and go too. But paint is an easy fix.
And I'm circling back to the value of an experienced agent that you feel you have confidence in, because we see the larger trends. So sometimes the color is just shifting or a style is shifting. You'll find out there, you'll find a lot of sources on the internet for return on improvements, and they normally deal in terms of percentages, investment, return on investment. Don't read those because you could be real disappointed, especially if you've already made the improvement in the kitchen and they say, oh, congratulations, you get 25% of your investment back. And
what I like to say to some people is that when they ask me, should I do this, should I do that, in some cases it will improve the marketability of your house, not the price of your house. So more people will be attracted to it, and you more likely may get an offer close to what we're asking, but it's not going to raise the price of your house considerably. Now, there are some things that do. Brand new kitchens, brand new bathrooms, obviously those are going to raise the price of your house to some level. But is it a level that makes it worth doing the work? Depends on what the work is.
Yeah, a lot of what you'll do, and I'm totally off topic, which is a big surprise to Denise, but we look at not just what she said about marketability as opposed to dollar increase, it's ease of decision. Because there's things about a house that a buyer sees, especially if there are two of them, that may not cost much. If it makes the decision to like the house easier, it's worth stuff. Not worth dollars, but you get it.
Well, a perfect example, real quick, is I had a house that it was a very nice little cape, and the woman said to me, should I replace my kitchen counters and my appliances? And I said, people are going to come in, they're going to want to do their own thing. So I would say, let's just leave it the way it is, and we'll price it, accordingly. And we had a lot of showings. The market, it wasn't in this market. And eventually I said, you know what, appliances are on sale right now, and so are the countertops, so let's just do it. And we didn't change the price at all. She got a deal on the appliances. We put in a brand new countertop. It wasn't a granite countertop. It was just a nice looking countertop. And we had the house sold in 2 weeks.
Yeah. And that's a big part of that, is that easing the decision, which we'll talk about in another episode.
Right, because sometimes in a house like this one was a first-time home buyer kind of house, and the first-time home buyers in that particular case, in that particular neighborhood, didn't want to have to deal with buying new appliances or getting a new countertop. Everything else they were fine with.
Okay, good. So the lesson we would take home from this is find a experienced agent that you have confidence in, be it from a seller's position or a buyer's position. Even if you're in Idaho, they have them there.
They do.
I hear. It's only hearsay.
Yeah. So thank you very much for watching. Follow us again on Facebook. We are on Facebook Live every Wednesday night at 5:30, and we have our past briefings on YouTube, the Coastal New England Real Estate Team. We're on Twitter and Instagram. Check us out. See where we are in South County.
Yes, every Sunday and Sundays and Thursdays we are asking you where in South County are we. If Manning's out there, he's been the lead scorer for that.
Yeah, come beat Manny on where in South County are we?
Because they're totally softballs now. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I think one of them had his front yard.
No,
and he got it right away. It'll get harder as we go along.
All right, yes. So come on Instagram, check it out, and check out our YouTube channel too. Subscribe.
That's it.
All right, thanks. Bye-bye.